Hello. Sorry, we were busy having our own little private conversation. So very, very excited to welcome DC Douglas to the sofa. Welcome, DC. Hopefully you know DC. If you don't, you definitely would have played a game that he's been in. I think you've probably been in every major game for the last 10 years. Everyone.
Oh, no, anyway. Not that much, but thanks.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is fun. I feel like I'm in a zoo because there's all these people walking around looking.
And occasionally they'll stop and take a little seat, and it'll be exciting.
Yes. Just feed me. Feed me?
Yeah, DC hasn't had any lunch yet. He's kindly joined us here before lunch, so he's probably hungry. Hopefully his blood sugar won't drop and you'll
right,
end up
exactly.
passing out.
Yes.
We'll keep an eye. So we'll keep it moving nice, fast, exciting. So I'd like to start by talking about, certainly, so you played two characters that I love in video games. So I'm going to start with probably my favourite, which is Legion. I think mainly because I thought it would be a really interesting acting challenge, because you've got to kind of get a strange balance between a robot, but with like little hints of warmth in the character.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, when it originally when the audition came, it was a monologue that was like a friend's Roman countryman eulogy thing, and so they wanted to see, this is a robot, so we want some sort of emotion in there, but it's still synthetic. So it was a strange thing. So you kind of start with the idea of, Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then you kind of tweak it from there because Hal definitely has a sinister quality to him. So it was just kind of right down the middle. It actually turns out to be an easy job in that it was the least amount of acting to do. It's such a very light touch to do the character. And then, of course, as the game goes on, then we get battle stuff. Then you get more to bite into. So, but yeah, it was a fun challenge to do.
One of the things I'm interested in, having kind of been around video game production, often the voice acting for video games, you're kind of going into a booth, you're going for a bunch of the lines and stuff. Do you ever, when you then see how that's translated into game and you see the character come to
Shake
life,
my head and go, oh God.
Well, more the other side, does it catch you by surprise and see in
Well, it's interesting you bring this up because, the video games started with coders, essentially, really.
Yep.
And so you'd think about the 90s when they did video games, that you'd go into the booth and you'd get your Excel spreadsheet of all your lines. You kind of generally know what your character is. You don't really know the story. They don't really know the story sometimes, the people that are running the session, and the lines are out of order. They're just lines, and you just kind of read through them, and they go, let's do it like angry, one like you're in battle, and one like you're just talking to somebody next door, because they literally don't know, because the producers didn't tell them, and so it was like, and then you see it put together, and it's just so cringeworthy. And then, of course, it got more sophisticated, and now, thank God, we have it where you have your lines. Sometimes you see the other person's lines, or if not, the director at least does, and feeds you the other person's lines, so you know how the dialogue is going back and forth, and you got a good sense as to the emotion and the design of the scene and all of that, and you can have much more cinematic acting in the game. So, it's wonderful that it's evolved to that point. But you go back to some of those early games, and it's really kind of crazy. I'll also say I do a lot of anime games, and so we are locked into the timing of the Japanese version. So when you're doing those lines, it's a little strange because first they've had to translate it, and as best they can, and sometimes you don't have the best translations, and then secondly you have to fit it. So the character's line, and I don't speak Japanese, so I can't, but it would be something like, and then you get your line, and it's like, I wouldn't do that, and it's like, but it's got to fit the time, so you're like, I wouldn't do that. And then the next line is something where you go, because I think you might get hurt. And then you see it in the game, you're like, or it's like, oh no, that's so wrong.
I think that's the thing. Like you hinted at, over the last 15 years, the evolution of story as part of video games. It was quite basic and a bit of an add-on, and maybe some text on screen.
Yeah.
And now it's so many games are kind of so story-driven, and the story part of it. Like Adam Wesker in Resident Evil, and you see the way his stories evolved over the games as well. It must be fascinating to be involved with a character like that.
Yeah. Well, the Wesker thing is interesting because I share the role with a couple other actors, really good actors. And the first person who did it was Sergio Jones back in '96. He probably went into the studio and had an Excel sheet of lines, having no idea what the game was about and what these lines meant. And then later on, Peter Jessup, Richard Waugh, and then of course we started to get more story, and so the acting becomes much more nuanced. But yeah, it's I mean, nuanced within the Resident Evil universe. So, I mean, the character gets kind of, scenery chewing by
Nuance
Resident Evil
turned up
5.
to 11, right?
Yes. I mean, my shirt is off, my muscles are rippling, and I'm going, so there's not much subtlety going on at that point.
And that's just you in the voice booth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's how I get into character. So.
And you're obviously not just doing game stuff. You're doing live action and film stuff. Sharknado 2.
Yes, the pinnacle of my career is Sharknado 2, so playing Bud. And the other character was Lou, so you can kind of get an idea where the writers were going with that. Yeah, exactly. Actually, that whole thing, the Sharknado thing is hysterical, so it's great that they have fun with it, and that was lucky, is I asked to be in that movie. I know it's the guys who produced it, it's Asylum, and the Asylum, and I've worked with them. I've done, I think, 6 or 7 films with them since 1999. And I said, I'd love to be in it. And he goes, we already wrapped. And the principal photographer, I'm like, oh, darn. And then like a month later, he like sends me an email. He's like, hey, can you be in Buffalo next week? Like, because apparently Sci-Fi wanted to add in this thing about giant alligators in the sewer in a shark movie. And I'm like, well, hey, whatever, man. I get to be in Sharknado 2. I'm going to do it. So, So I was very grateful for them that I got in. I got so much publicity for just being in that movie than anything else in my career. So that was kind of cool.
I know loads of my friends adored the Sharknado films. They just, absolutely adore them. And you're in a new thing that we should be looking out for in the UK on Netflix.
Yeah, I just finished shooting it. Those who follow me on like Twitter saw some of the some pretty kind of crazy pictures. It's the film. I actually pitched this to them, to the Asylum. It's about a year and a half ago. I said I wanted to do a movie that would tip its hat to the fans of Resident Evil video game franchise. And they said, well, they love zombies, obviously. They do Z Nation and all that. And they said, sure, well, it sounds like a good idea. Let's go with it. So we had to develop the story. Of course, once you get into story development, it goes all sorts of places. But there's still a lot of allusions to the game in the film. The film was called XP573, or think Ouroboros. But it's probably going to be called Isle of the Dead when it comes out. It'll probably be on Sci-Fi. But my character is Colonel Aiden Wexler. So if you don't get a tip of the hat from that character name, I don't know how to. You probably won't pick up on anything else that's in it. But it's really cool. It's with Joey Lawrence and a WWE diva, Maurice Mizanin is in it. She's a really sweet lady. And it was just a fun, wacky film he shot in like 10 days. So.
Yeah. You say about allusions to kind of previous IP and things. I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question, but you're one of the only people I'm ever going to get a chance to ask it to, so I'm going to ask. So Legion in Mass Effect is made up of 138, so 1,138 programs. Is that an allusion, do you know, to THX 1138, so the original Spielberg film? Sorry, super piece of question. Yeah,
no, I have no idea, but I would think so. But it's so funny you bring that up because in Sharknado 2, segue back to that for some reason, wow. We're actually supposed to shut off valve 1138. Yeah. So.
Oh, so there's like you've got.
It's literally there's a sign right there with the valve number. Yeah.
So from Spielberg into Legion straight to you. Yeah.
Exactly, 6 degrees of separation. So.
So hopefully we've got some fans of your work in our audience. So we're wondering if anyone's got any questions they would like to ask DC Douglas whilst he's here, rather than me going. There's a nod at the front. You're nodding. Yeah, there's a question. You've got a question.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello again. As Wesker in the Resident Evil series, is there a moment that stands out for you as a voice actor? Anything that you did that was particularly fun to emote, or was memorable, having to kind of ham it up with such a bad character?
It's so funny because I've done his voice, I think, more outside of the game than I ever did in the games because of like fans asking for certain lines and then doing a certain 18 plus panels. So he's said a lot of things since then. But to me, I mean, obviously, it's fun when you get to be so maniacal and just like play with the words, chew the scenery. But there was this one line Liam O'Brien directed Resident Evil 5, and at one point he says, "Okay, we've got a couple add-in lines we're going to do here," And he goes, so he would just say the lines, and then I would go back, and I would say it as a character. And he goes, "You will give me an egg." And I'm like, ah. He's like, "No, say the line, you will give me an egg." I'm like, "Okay, you will give me an egg." He goes, "I require an egg." And I'm like, "Come on, Liam." He's like, "No, I require an egg." Like it just like went on for like 15 versions of this line, and so of course I loved it. I had no idea what it was then because I didn't play video games, but I thought it was hysterical. So,
what is the line that you get asked to do most while you're on panels that you could do at a family show?
I would say probably the most is 7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I have to play with you. So that's usually the one. It's the easiest one to remember, too. I don't even know if I'm saying it right anymore. I think I'm saying it different than they actually is in the game.
It's now kind of morphed into your
own. Yeah,
it's
become its own thing. It's become my rosebud. Wait, what's the line that's never said? Oh, play it again, Sam. Yeah.
Play it
It's
again,
never said in the movie.
No, never said in the movie. That's kind of a myth. Have we got any other questions from anyone else who's here? Or you're stuck with me asking... Oh, you've got one more.
Hello again.
Hello again.
I was a bit close. So, did you do any sort of research or for preparation for playing out Wesker for the first time? Like looking at the other actors?
Yes, I killed the neighborhood cat. Yes, I was trying to figure out how do I take over the neighborhood and just poisoned everybody's water. The thing with video games is, as I was saying in the other thing there, we don't get a chance to, we don't even know what we're playing until we get there sometimes. And also, because there's so much secrecy in the video game world, you don't even know the name of the game. It's called something else. The character's called something else. The dialogue you've read in the audition is something else. So you get there and you go, so we like that voice, but you're doing this character, and this is what he looks like. Here's sort of where the story goes, and go. So it's like that. So it's more improvisational, flying by the seat of your pants in the characters, and you intimate what your backstory as you go, and then like halfway through you go, oh, actually my backstory is this, not that, and I better start, moving the character that way. And sometimes you'll go through a session and we'll go, okay, let's go back to the first page because we really locked in the voice now, and we'll redo the first page just because we were still finding it as we were doing it that way. But yeah, so it's not like a film or TV or a play where I have weeks beforehand. I can really work on backstory and things like that. So, but I will say, as an actor, it's made me much more flexible when it comes to doing film and TV. So, for instance, this Isle of Dead that I just did, we had script changes all the way up till the first day. And the first day, we shot my major scene, which was 8 pages long. It's a 9-minute scene of me exposition. And because we had, attention. Oh my gosh. Howard! Oh. All right. She could pick up the pace, woman. Pick up the pace. All right. Yeah, I swear, yesterday I could have sworn she said all fit men report to the office, and I'm like, I better go.
You better go, yeah. I think it was a call out just for you.
Yeah, I think it may. No, sadly, I'm a little out of shape right now. I've been eating all your food here in this country. But what was I going to say? Oh, so I had this 8-minute scene, and because they'd been changing the script up to then, things that I said in this scene were no longer valid because things different happened later on in the movie. So it was literally like 30 minutes before I go to shoot it, I'm like changing dialogue and trying to memorize it, and then trying to be in the moment with the backstory of that character, the new backstory, and all of that. And it's because of having done video games, that kind of stuff, for all these years, it helped me as an on-camera actor as well. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great, DC. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. It's been really insightful.
Well, thank you.
So thank you. And now you can go and get some lunch.
Yes, I'm going to go eat. Again, and get fat. So.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks,
DC.
guys. Thank you. Oh, my God. Yes. This is my IMDb picture. That's me at a rave at one of the conventions. That's so cool you put that. There you go. You know how to. Thank you.